Okay, welcome to One Stop Co-op Shop. Steve here, Kim.
Hi, everybody.
We're here to do a review.
Yes.
Been a little bit of time. I'm excited to do another review with you. Today we're going to review of Marvel United X-Men, not just the core set, but all of Season 2, as we can have a chance to play through a bunch of the top content.
Yeah, that is very true.
So, clarification, we haven't played through everything yet because, let's be real, there's a ton of content.
No. And I literally stopped my work day about 15 minutes ago, so I am just trying to switch gears and I'll figure it out.
So here we are. So we're doing this live. If you're joining us live on YouTube, welcome. If you've got any questions or comments, drop them in the section below. We'll be answering them. But yeah, we're going to dive into a top 5 review of Marvel United X-Men. Okay, but before we do that, let's talk about the game itself if you haven't heard about this game.
That's right. Hi, Ryan.
Hey, Ryan. Good evening. So, Marvel United X-Men is a fully cooperative, though the new content does make it competitive potentially as well. So we'll get to that in a second. But it's generally a cooperative board game where you're playing as Marvel heroes, and the goal is to take out the big bad guy, which is honestly like every Marvel superhero game out there.
Beat the baddie, win the game.
Right.
Save the world.
Exactly. So how this game goes about that goal is you'll be playing through a deck of 12 cards, and the cards you'll be playing have action icons on the bottom. There are 3 basic action icons you can do: a movement, heroic action, and a punch. There's also a wild, which could be any of those 3, so it's kind of a 4th in there as well. And you'll be doing the actions on your card, plus the action icons on the card previous to the card you played. So in this game, turn order definitely matters. So, for example, Kim played her card, she did a move and a punch, and I played my card, and I have 2 heroic actions. On my turn, I'll do the move, punch, and 2 heroic actions during my turn. And you can do this in any order you want. And punches are used for taking out henchmen or the bad guy. Heroic actions are used for rescuing civilians or completing threats usually. And movement is moving around the board. In this case, you have a circular board which you move around either clockwise or counterclockwise, and the locations can be random or you can set up however you want. And the goal is you need to complete 2 missions. There are 3 missions possible. You can clear threats, which each enemy is going to have a different threat card. You can rescue civilians, or you can defeat thugs. And civilians and thugs will be populating the boards. And if they get overpopulated, they'll trigger bad effects, which we don't want to happen.
That's right.
But that is mechanically what's happening in the game. There is a lot of modularity in this. You can mix and match whatever heroes you want, whatever villains you want, and the game's going to change drastically.
You could, like you said, even mix around the player board. There are some scenarios that says you have to have certain things in there, right?
That's correct.
But for the most part, you really just set up however you want.
That's right. That's right. So. Yeah, so there's a lot of content on it. We're talking about the 2nd season, which is focused on the X-Men. We do have the 1st season, which we covered previously on this channel, which was more Avengers focus and just general Marvel focus. But we're talking about the Season 2 today, and I'm sure we'll be comparing Season 2 to Season 1 in a future content videos. We'll be able to look at for that.
Okay. Let's get into it.
Let's get into it.
Top 5.
Okay. So it's your first time joining us, welcome. We are going to be doing a top 5 format. And so what that means is we're going through the 5 things that we think are most important to know about this game, starting with number 5 and moving all the way up to number 1. And along the way, we're saying if there are pros or cons for us as we go. So that is what we're going to do. Pretty straightforward. And at the end, we'll share our final thoughts of the game. Now, we're going to approach things a little bit differently. We're trying a different format with reviews. Not only are we going to do the top 5 review today, but maybe like a month or 2 months later, we're going to return to this game and do a look-back review, which when we look back at if our thoughts or opinions change since we continue to play the game, since at that point we'll play more of the content and see if we agree or disagree with any point you made. In addition to that, we'll get into some other finer details that we not get to during this review.
I'm going to worry about that later.
Yes, worry about that later, exactly. Okay.
Let's go.
Let's go. So, starting with our number 5 thing you need to know about this game. So, this is going to be a pro, and that is going to be the fast playtime in this one. And this game is awesome because I can set up and play a game, and it probably takes me 30 minutes.
Sometimes it can go longer if you think about things a lot.
It can.
But because you have a set hand of 12 cards, and you play a card each turn, for the most part, I think.
Yeah, every turn you play a card. Yeah,
when your deck runs out, it's game over.
that's right.
So it's like you can't go on forever. You have to plan accordingly and make your move quickly, which is funny because again, one of the last games we played, we were getting down to the wire, and I was so sure that was fabulous. But yeah, it's a set quick game, which I really enjoy. So it's not something that it's. I know it's not going to go to like 2 o'clock in the morning if we started at a decent hour. So
Right.
it's nice.
And I think you mentioned something else I'd be good to bring up is because you have these 12 cards, and the villain has its own 12 cards it plays through. The game doesn't take very long for either of those decks to get through. And basically, one of the loss conditions is if any player needs to play a card and they don't have any cards left, you lose the game. Or likewise, if the villain needs to play a card and they win the game, right?
Yeah, so essentially, if any deck runs out, game over for the heroes.
That's exactly right.
But still, in the same token, it's nice that it. I think the shorter playtime, at least to me, makes it feel like a lighter game.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't. It's not a whole lot of brain power in this game. Although I say that with an asterisk because it can get pretty intricate in terms of how you're planning on your tactics that you're taking.
Yes.
But it's not like you're saying, Ryan. It's not sword and sorcery length or anything like that.
Not your dungeon crawler, that's for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
That's for sure. Yeah, and the other aspect of that smaller decks is you have less. It winds up, at least that's my assumption, is you have a lot of close games. I think that's because the decks are so small. You don't have a lot of room to go off, to have one player go off and grow crazy power, the other side grow crazy power. It tends to be a pretty tight game.
Yeah, it's not really like there's some now that they have like the training cards and stuff that from the X-Men set, which we'll talk about. You can kind of level up your character in a sense, but it's not a role playing game by any means.
Well, I just mean that you don't literally have runaway games in this one. I would say games are normally pretty tight because the 12 card limit goes by pretty quick. So, and yes, Ryan, I agree with you. It's really the perfect length for what kind of game it is. It doesn't overstay its welcome. That is exactly right. So that's number 5.
Yeah.
Big pro.
Yeah, and like it knows what it is. It's not trying to be anything else.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
it's very smart. It's wisely put together.
Excellent.
Okay.
Excellent. Yes. So that is our number 5, a pro. So let's move on to the next one to talk about. Number 4. So number 4 is also going to be pro in this case, and that is going to be the challenges. So what do I mean by challenges in this game? The Marvel United has a core method of playing the game. And I explained that earlier and how it works, but a lot of the expansions or content adds these modules called challenges, which you can add to the game. And these modules you can literally add to any game you want. So you can add, if you really wanted to, you could literally play with all the challenges at one time. I would not recommend because you're not going to loot. You're not going to win. But
so wait, we haven't done that yet?
No, we haven't done that yet. There's no chance to win the game. Trust me. But it adds a lot of variety to the game, and it makes it so that you can pull your own levers to make the game exactly what you want it to be. And in X-Men, the second season, they added 4 challenges to the game. There was the Sentinel challenge, so you can choose to play with one additional Sentinel who's moving around the board, and he is mimicking the actions the players do, which is really engaging. Absolutely love this challenge because it adds a interesting cognitive puzzle on top of the already puzzle.
And they're kind of like mini bosses.
Yeah.
Also.
Exactly.
So it's like you have your minions or your henchmen guys, villains.
Your henchmen, yeah.
And then like your sentinels, your mini boss, and then your super boss.
Exactly.
So.
Exactly. Yeah, they're a blast. Big fan of this one. There's also the Takeover Challenge, which was introduced in Fantastic Four. And this one, I like what it does as well because this one is the.
Sorry, finish your thought.
This one is it answers the question of the overflow. So in the game, you can have if you run out of room of tokens on a location, you trigger the overflow effect, and sometimes depending on what bad guy you're playing against. That may have a big effect, or may not have much of an effect. In some cases, be like, you know what, I don't care if this overflows, no big deal. We can have 6 counters on that spot, and nothing bad's going to happen. Now, Takeover changes that completely because for every overflow you have, you will take one of those tokens and put it on this overflow card. And if the overflow card ever gets filled up, you lose the game. So now you have this other buffer, which can now trigger end game. Which I really like that, being able to add that additional form of tension, where you can't just let a location go off out of control without ramifications.
Mm-hmm.
I also added hazardous locations. So these are locations which, if you end your turn at a spot, you will get a good effect generally. But a hazardous location, it is a requirement to do, and is always a bad effect.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's interesting because there might be a threat card on there that you really want to clear because of the scenario. Well, now it changes its value proposition. Do you really want to take that out? Do you want to maybe leave that bad thing there because you don't want to have that revealed hazardous location? Do you want to be able to, can you skip across that location? Don't end your turn there? So a lot of interesting decisions come out of that one.
Yeah, so like an example on that one's Doctor Doom's spot.
Latveria, yep.
Yeah, so
Yep.
like if you land there and you end your turn there and there's like Doombots there or something and you just get hit really hard.
That's right.
So like you're saying when we were playing, I was just avoiding that spot at all cost.
Yeah, Apocalypse's pyramid, he actually protects the villains. So the villains are there, they take less damage, which is really cool.
Mm.
And that is one that is outside of the end of turn effect. That is always in play. Which is really, really cool.
Yeah.
And then the last one, which I think is my favorite, I think is your favorite too, is the Danger Room challenge. Now this is the only challenge that makes the game easier. So now what you can have is you can add a Danger Room on the bottom of one of your locations, and it adds an additional end of turn effect. So you can do the normal end of turn effect of the location, or you can do the end of turn effect of the Danger Room, which says draw a training card.
Yeah.
And the training, go ahead.
I think it's weird that they call this one of the challenges because it's giving you a card.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
it's helpful.
It is a helpful card. And this training card is one of two things. It's either a one-time effect or a permanent effect. And it'll say on there if it's a discard or a permanent effect. The discards it's always good. It might be like, hey, draw 2 cards and put 1 card back in the bottom, so it lets you heal a little bit and customize your deck, or not customize your deck, but manipulate your deck a little bit so you get the cards you want on top. Or it could be a permanent effect, which could be something as simple as, hey, when you attack a villain, you do 1 extra damage, for example.
Which is awesome.
Which is awesome.
But, Ryan's latest comment here, seeing how we could handle all the challenges, I am actually intrigued by that, and I think we should do it.
We'll do it. We'll make it happen.
Okay.
It'll be a quick game, but we'll do it.
Takeover, hazardous location, and danger room.
Plus the other ones.
Which one?
The season 1 challenges. We'll do it.
Well, I'm not signing up for that.
Okay, we'll see.
We'll see.
Anyway. But yeah, so Danger Room is awesome. We've been playing with that. That's been a constant since we got it. That is the one challenge we're going to probably always play with. It doesn't make the game easier, but it makes it interesting because you get to level up. But it doesn't feel overpowered because you have to clear and you have to end your turn there, so you only get a couple cards. And if you get knocked out, you lose all those powers as well. So I think it's a really fun addition to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, number 4 challenges, Big Pro.
It's okay, Ryan. It's a good idea. We're going to try it. He likes to make everything more challenging anyway.
Oh, there's another one I did forget. The Deadpool one, sorry. I forgot about the Deadpool one.
I have not been exposed to the Deadpool portion of the X-Men pack. You have.
I have.
You played with it and
with our son. Yep.
Yeah, with Caleb.
The Deadpool one is random chaos, is what it is. So if you land on Deadpool there, if it's the villain or heroes, you will draw a card from Deadpool Chaos deck, and it will move him around that playing piece around, and it will be literally a random thing. It could be as simple as nothing happens. It could be as something as like, hey, all the dog and cat owners get a token. If you don't have an animal pet, you take a wound or something.
Yeah, and I know when we were looking at backing this or getting this whole set, the Deadpool one was like, because it's kind of out there and it's not really our thing.
Yeah.
And again, I haven't played it, but I also don't have interest in doing random things like that.
Yeah, this was a pro, except for the Deadpool challenge one. I did not like the chaos in it. I felt like it took away from the puzzling nature of the game. My son liked it, so but he likes silly stuff, so I get
Did you think like thematically it still kind of fit, breaking the fourth wall and all that?
It did. I don't want that in my Marvel United game. When it comes down to it, so
because it kind of like takes you out of the game itself.
Yeah,
and that's not what you're for.
I like the tight puzzle, and I think the game's challenging enough without some random element
that makes no sense.
That doesn't really help or helps or hurt. Who knows? It could be. So yeah, that's the minor negative to the challenges there. That's the one I don't like.
Okay.
Moving on to number 3. So not only are these challenges, there's more challenges to do in there, and really enjoyed them, but the the difficulty of the game also increased. I felt like it's a lot harder. So this could be a pro or con depending on what you want in the game, but for me, this was a pro.
Of course.
I, to be fair, I don't really care if I win or lose, but I do like a good challenge, as you know. I like the house rule games that make them harder generally. I'm sorry, you have to put up with that.
I know, because you can walk away from losing a game and still be like, oh, that was perfect. And like, yeah, okay, I can sometimes, but I also like to win. And if you make it impossible, I'm not going to want to play all the time.
Yeah.
So,
So I don't know what it is, but I do feel like the game's difficulty has increased. We'll see
mhm.
if my thoughts still remain that way when comparing to season one as we play the game over the next couple months or so. Um, but it's as difficult enough where in season one my recommendation was to play with one of the challenge modes, which you remove the double wild card from all the heroes decks. So there's two cards in every hero's deck. There's a single wild card and then a double wild card in every deck. And you could remove one or both of those from the deck to make it more challenging. And I always recommend removing the double wild.
Except for now.
Except for now.
He put them back in the game.
They are back in the game. In this set and the previous set, it was just getting too challenging, and there's other cards that require wilds specifically to utilize, which I thought was a really cool addition to the game. So, long story short, because of the difficulty in those other additions, I decided to add them back in. So,
Yeah.
this is, don't be fooled. This is a light game. It looks simple. It is the simplest rules.
It is simple in the sense that rule set it's not hard
Oh,
to
yeah.
comprehend.
Yeah.
Again, we play with our young son. He gets it totally fine. Like the character's special abilities, I think, have also increased in a little complexity as they have come out. So you get like 4 special cards or whatever it is, but they all have some sort of special ability, and I do think those have ramped up. Um, but again, they're not hard to really comprehend.
No, it's just difficulty in being able to win. We lose a lot in this game, so
Yeah,
even with the easier setting.
We do.
Speaking of which, I think we'll just move on to our next one, number 2, because you already mentioned it.
What did I say?
Design Space is what I want to call it.
Oh, okay.
Because they have taken the core gameplay in Marvel United Season 1 and they've pushed the boundaries of what the system has done. Yes, Howard can quote it here. Yes, and it pushed the boundaries of what it can do. And so like you said, all the heroes now have a 4th power. So in the first season, they only had minimum of 3 special abilities on their cards. Now you have 4 special abilities on the card, but they also added a ton of cards that have starting hand cards. So cards that when you shuffle up the deck, you always put this on top of the deck, so it'll always be in your starting hand. This 1 power, and generally those powers say, as long as this card is face up in the storyline, you will have this passive effect or ongoing effect that will happen. And these do feel very thematic, and they add a lot to the game in my experience.
Yep. Well, in addition to, I think you have more like player collaboration, or you can impact other players more beyond just giving them and planning ahead in terms of what symbols you're playing.
Mm-hmm.
You have like the Fantastic Four cards that have things that specifically say if you're playing with other Fantastic Four characters, you're going to boost each other up. And I don't think that's really in season 1 as much, unless I'm forgetting stuff.
Okay. No. So yeah, they really taken the design space they seemed to define, and that boundary is pushed out. Like there is another example, the villain Spiral in the game. She has a completely different board where you have to break her spell. So you have to, instead of doing the normal 3 missions, you have to rescue a civilian, take out a thug, or maybe 2 thugs, and then clear a threat. And it has to be in that order. And you put these tokens on this track, and once the track is completed, then you can finally attack her and maybe try to win the game. And that is like there's no other character in the game that has a separate board like that in there. Mm-hmm. It's just so very, very different on how it plays out. The design space is extreme, and not only that, there's a lot of characters that added tokens in the game. Their own special tokens. For example, we played a game with Iceman, who had his freeze tokens.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So you can put a freeze token and freeze the villain so he doesn't run away, or put a freeze token on the board, and now it's a It's an ice slide, so people can slide across that until his turn comes back up and it melts away. Like Multiple Man, he has his own civilian tokens. Basically, he can put down the board, and he can act as though he's on those locations if he has a token in that space, which is really cool. So they've added these additional tokens and abilities that really push the design space of the game, and it's gotten very interesting and very engaging.
Cool.
Yeah, it's also they've done other effects that are you must do, which is particularly interesting with some of the characters like Apocalypse. Apocalypse you can play as a hero, which is weird because Apocalypse isn't normally a hero.
No, I wouldn't call him a hero at all.
Well, in the comics, he does help out later.
What?
On. Yeah. Spoilers.
Sorry.
So, but like his cards are interesting because he has force effects that say you have to flip the card face down. So he has very powerful effects, but then his cards flip face down, which means he does not help anyone else out on the team, which seems fitting for a villain that he's helping, but not really.
He's not really a team player.
Exactly, not a team player, which works so well with the game for sure.
Yeah. So I do think, like you're saying, as they've progressed in the development of this game, they've just kept, they've added more content, and it's good content, and it's increased the complexity. But I think it's also increased like I said, the collaboration and teamwork, and the ability that you can make the game feel more thematic in itself. Because I know, like in super base vanilla game, it's very vanilla now when you look back and compare to it.
Kind of like I agree a little bit. So let me just jump to my number one because you're already getting to that a little bit. You're just
sorry. You can't tame me.
Cannot tame you. So number one by far, I think it was my number one last time too, was the cooperation. It is a super cooperative game. You almost can't do anything without affecting others in this game. You have to try to not to affect others, which is crazy. But yeah, that's what you're getting at for the collaboration is extreme. And talk about the vanilla aspect of it. I think the core set of the game was very vanilla because they're like, okay, here's some basic concepts, here's how it works, and yes, you can share the action icons and maybe even some tokens which you can persist, but that's all the core set originally did. It wasn't much. And now, like you're saying, with the Fantastic Four teamwork card, it's a completely different mechanic where we are collectively adding tokens to this card, and then we all get to partake in that action pool that's there. Or, for example, Cloak and Dagger. We did it on the first playthrough, and like they specifically reference, hey, if Dagger's in the spot, they can also come with Cloak and do this other fun thing, or they can heal each other, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And Alpha Flight, for example, Alpha Flight is another card that says, hey, by the way, you will get a token for every Alpha Flight card on the storyline, which every Alpha Flight character in the game has their own Alpha Flight card. So they will compound these tokens they get that if they play the right team, which is really, really cool.
Yeah, and I'm not like saying the base core set by itself is bad at all.
Right.
It's a very good introduction. I'm just saying now that we've seen what they've branched into and developed, it's really expanded, which is what you're talking about in terms of the game depth.
Yeah, so like it's pushed the boundaries a lot with that, and the cooperation is even more, which I wasn't really expecting. There are, of course, like I mentioned, Apocalypse earlier, he doesn't really help as much because he's kind of the bad guy one. So there's some exceptions that they don't do that, for example. But with all the special abilities, and there's a lot of them in this one, which I think a lot of people liked from the first season, but generally there was 3 in a lot of cases. There was exceptions, of course, like Groot has specials on all his cards, and there's a number of them that had more than 3 for sure. But having a minimum of 4 now, and a lot of them having the bigger effect is the passive abilities, which help a lot. For example, it was Spiral, playing Spiral hero, who has a ability. It's her starting hand if it's in the storyline face up. When a Master Plan card is revealed, that's the villain's card. When it's revealed, you get to discard an action token to have her and all heroes on her spot move to adjacent spot, called Teleport Away. And so it's very cooperative in that sense. Like, oh yes, end your turn at my spot. We'll see what the villain card is. If the villain's going to come affect us or attack us negatively, I can have a panic button to get us out of there.
Yeah,
which is very, very cool. And then there's other things like that play out of turn as well, which really added to the cooperative element of it. So, but yeah, anything else on the cooperation? I know you were talking a lot about that earlier.
I was.
Yes.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. You're
fine. No, I'm surprised by where this game has gotten to, because I wouldn't have guessed you could get so much out of, I guess, this it's relatively basic gameplay concept.
Yeah,
But I was, again, pleasantly surprised and very happy, and I just love playing this game.
yeah. So getting to final thoughts. So basically final
Am
thoughts,
I
or
am I ahead of you again? Yeah,
no,
that's
no, it's
probably
fine. Go
my
ahead. Go ahead.
final thought. Yeah, so Pumpkinhead, I'd say for sure it has gotten a lot better over time. Again, not it wasn't bad, but I do think that if you were to just say, oh, I played the very beginning core box and it was just not my cup of tea, it's probably worth revisiting if you can
Hmm.
with all this expansion stuff on it, just to get the full experience of it.
Yeah. So you think it's worth revisiting? So you think the new content would potentially um, change people's opinions if they didn't like it originally? That's what you're
If they
getting at.
didn't like it because they felt it was too basic, I think it could help in those situations. But if you
Hmm.
didn't like it because I don't like Marvel and superhero themes, well, that's
Sure.
not going to help
Sure.
you. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I agree with you. I think this has improved the game a lot from the season one. I am very impressed with what they're doing. I enjoyed season one a lot. It was my game of the year when it came out.
Mhm.
I loved it, and this is even better than that. I will argue the point at this point. We'll see if I still think that's true in a month, but I'm thinking it will. I think it'll stay the same. I'll be surprised if that changes. Um, but yeah, even Howard's on here saying that it hasn't changed much, but this set has amped it up from a 6 to at least an 8 for Howard. So yeah, it's I am hearing a lot of people very positive on the reception of this game. It's a lot better from before,
Mhm.
and I think it has a lot to do with the complexity level. Is how I describe it. That's the big change in that the powers are more interesting and unique.
I think because you get more choices, you have
Yeah.
your different abilities that are, it's not just, oh, I get a bonus heroic action because I'm Captain America or whatever the case
Hmm.
may be like that.
Hmm.
It's more thematic and I think, got a better cool factor
Yeah.
for your particular characters. Um,
Yeah. The
yeah.
passive abilities or the ongoing abilities when their cards are face up on the storyline add so much to the game. I would love it if Simon and Spin Masters produce an expansion pack for the season one characters to be like, here's a bunch of passive abilities for everyone, and we can substitute out one of the cards in that for the original decks because that would add a ton for me. Just that by itself was the biggest impact to my experience in this game for sure.
Yeah.
Um, I will say it's not all. So as you know, like a recap, this top five has been all pros,
Yes.
but
But it's not all roses.
it's not all roses. There are definitely cons in this one for sure. I want to talk those briefly because they weren't big enough to make the top five as a con, but the cons are one of them is random card plays. Um, this occurred in season one with Thanos with the Mind Stone, meaning he can mind control people, which it makes sense that wouldn't be able to choose your card because he's messing with you. I get that. And it's not as bad because you still choose the order of actions you do. So it's not like your decisions are taken away from you completely. But I still don't like it as much. But there's a lot of characters, maybe not a lot of characters, but there's definitely more characters in season two that do that same effect. However, there is also a character that is immune to that as well. So there's ways around
Tries to
it.
balance. I think for me, like the randomness of this game, again, is just the type of player that you are. If you hate randomization,
Yeah.
you're probably not going to like this game no matter what season or whatever you're playing.
Maybe, but that's like the only random element in the game, unless you're talking about Deadpool, which has a lot
Well,
of random
Deadpool,
stuff.
he's another story.
Yeah,
Um, yeah,
there's not a whole lot more random. It's all pretty. You know what's going to happen when your card draw. I mean, the random element is the order of cards that come out, but that's not a significant impact when you're looking at a 12 card deck because you see a third of your deck right out of the gate.
I guess that's fair.
So,
Yeah.
speaking of random stuff, another cons of this game that didn't make the list, Deadpool expansion.
We did touch on this, where again, I haven't played it, so I can't really speak to it. But as I read it and as we were looking at it, it doesn't sound interesting to me. But like I
The
said,
yeah, the challenge deck and some of the randoms they have comes out of it. I think the Bob villain is really fun. Honestly, I was really surprised how much I liked him. He was silly, but he worked well. It was a good challenge.
yeah, you were telling me about Bob. He just wants to retire.
That's
He's a
right.
villain. Just let him retire, and you're trying to kill him. So I'm
Yeah,
like, all right, I do have to play that one. So I mean, it sounds like some haha fun aspects of it, but I think Like you're saying the cards where it's like if you own a dog, you get to do this. I'm like, that's just not up my
Yeah,
alley. But
not either.
anyway,
So that was the another con to it. But honestly, overall, this has been a fantastic game. I highly recommend people take a look at. I think I agree with you. I think if you played just the core of the first season, if that was your only experience, I think it's worth revisiting.
hmm
I don't know if I would necessarily go to the core of the second season, even though it is better. Um, I'm not sure what I'd recommend to go to, but it is a better choice than the first season
yeah.
because you see more of the stuff happening.
But I'm also not saying, hey, if you didn't like the core, you should just go out and try to find every single set that's been released
Agreed.
and buy everything right now. No, that's
Agreed.
not what I'm saying because that is too much content. It's just not feasible. Um, but yeah, I really enjoy this game, and I think you and I are just going to keep on playing it.
I love it. I am not. This doesn't. I can play 4 times in a row and not be
Yeah.
bored of it.
And I also really like the fact that our son can play with us.
Yes.
He's 7, and he's totally fine playing this game. So it's a good time. Family fun night.
Yeah. Yeah. It's excellent. Big fan of it. Like I said, yes, kids can play it. There's only a little bit of reading. You can help them out with that. And like our son is strategizing along with us and making optimal plays as well. It's nice to be able to play with that.
I know it's such like a fun, proud moment when I was like, "Well, what are you gonna do?" And then he says whatever it is, and it's like I didn't even see that, and I'm like, "Yeah,
Yeah, he
you
corrected us
know,
like this is a good strategy. Wow.
yeah."
So though the difficulty is higher, so if you have kids who don't like losing as much, it is
Well, but then there are ways to make the game easier.
not a lot, honestly. It's really just danger room and playing with all the cards. That's basically it.
Yeah, well, you can give yourself the superhero cards, right?
We've been house ruling that. That's a house rule.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's okay. So another caveat is playing this game. We've been focusing on cooperative play because this is one stop co-op shop. But there are other modes of play. There is a team versus team, so you can play 2 people playing or 2 teams with I think it's 3 heroes each. Yeah, they're 3v3 going against each other against the boss. You can also play someone controlling the boss against the heroes, and you can also do someone controlling the boss against 2 teams. So you can get up to I believe 7 players in this game now. That's a max player count. But we haven't played any of the competitive stuff, so take it as what it is. We're focusing on the co-op. Now, one thing they did get added is the superhero cards and super villain cards, and these are additional cards when you're playing against someone playing as the boss and the heroes, where you have triggers on the cards that say, "Hey, if you stop end your turn in the villain square, do this, play this card and do the effect." And every player gets one of those cards, and then the villain gets a number of cards equal number of players, and then they can have additional card play to mess with the game. So what Kim's mentioning is the superhero cards. We've been playing with the superhero cards as a variant. We just play in the co-op mode, which is awesome because it's honestly just one additional card with the fact that it matters sometimes, but sometimes we don't even play it. So it does make it easier, but it's only a momentary boost in easy.
Yeah, it's like
So
one of them that I had was, I don't know, deal the villain an extra damage one time when you hit him, or something like
mhm,
that, and then the card goes away. So it is like a one-time thing that if you can trigger it, great, and I think that's helpful and it's fun.
it is.
Um, so I saw a comment a while ago, and I think maybe it was Howard or somebody was talking about printing inserts for this game, and you were talking about how are you going to store all this now? And I don't have a solution for that, so maybe that's a future discussion about
There's
how do you handle it? I mean, you have boxes. It has taken over our dining room.
mhm.
That's how like good thing I don't like use fine china and cook actual meals in the dining room. So it's like, all right, you can have that space for now, but that's a lot. I don't know what you're gonna do.
It is a lot of content for sure. And do you need all of it?
No,
You don't.
no.
I agree with that. I think if you only got X-Men, you'd be happy.
hmm
And
But you also said that about like the last Sinister Six expansion too. So it's like, which
but it's better now. Like I would say that if you got the X-Men season 2 and you now get season 1, are you gonna feel like you're missing out? You might, but honestly, I don't. I wouldn't worry about it. Like X-Men is excellent as it is, so you don't need a ton more content. Like we have it all. I'm gonna enjoy it all, but I don't know if that's you're missing out in that sense. You know what I'm trying to say? So
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Well, that
Okay.
is the review.
It is. I saw some other side conversations about the new Doctor Strange movie, and I'm like, I was just peeking. I'm like, thank you guys for not saying any spoilers because we haven't seen it. And he's really excited about it too.
I have not
So
seen the movie, but we're excited for that because we're obviously big Marvel fans playing this game and Legendary, and we play Champions as well. We don't do it on the channel because Peter does an awesome job covering Champions.
mhm.
So if you want Marvel cooperative games, I think we got you covered here. So,
Yeah.
and questions here.
Theodore, he does sleeve his games. He sleeves everything,
Yep, pretty much everything.
and it's
If I love the
excessive.
game or if the marked cards are gonna ruin it, I will sleeve. And this one, absolutely big thumbs up. Love this game. It is sleeved for sure, which is
Yes.
not cheap. So, but excellent. Okay,
Respect.
cool. So yeah, we've been playing through it. I think what we'll wind up doing is we'll probably do another buyer's guide, break down each of the expansions in more detail for you guys. But we want to get this review out there for everyone, so you had something about top five. We both absolutely love the game. Do recommend it. All pros for me on the side. Big fans. And then we'll probably do, like I said, the buyer's guide, and we'll probably also do a comparison between season one, more details, so you can see kind of the more pairing up between the two of them. And like I said, we'll be coming back to this as a look back review with more detailed. So we'll get into more of the nuances in that format. So lots more Marvel United content to come.
Sounds good.
Okay.
What's coming for the rest of the week?
Good question. So the rest of the week, Wednesday, we have Paint the Roses playthrough coming.
Oh yeah, that's going to be really interesting. So we did a test play just so I didn't come in completely blind for a change, and I think your goal is to get a lot of input from you guys watching because it's a deduction game, and you're not going to see our hands, and I'm not going to see your hand, and I have to make decisions based on what's on the board and what clues you've been giving me. So I don't know. That's going to be interesting, particularly with the 7-second delay. So we'll have to see.
We'll see if that works. But yeah, you can totally jump on and give clues or help with us.
Or you can be like, "That's not right. It's purple and purple," or whatever the choices are.
Yeah, so that'll be fun. We'll play that Wednesday, and then Friday we have Marvel Champions, and then not Saturday. We normally have co-op chat on Saturday, but this time we have it on Sunday due to life getting in the way. Our son
it's
has
not in the way. Our son has a t-ball game.
he has a T-Bone exactly.
Oh gosh, our son has stuff.
No, I'm excited for his game. I didn't want to miss his game, so
No, it's his first t-ball game, so you have to come.
oh yeah, exactly. I wanted to do this content for you guys, but at the same time, I love spending time with my son and family. That's always going to be number one for me. So,
Yep.
Excellent.
Red on Clover. That's the answer. I'll wait for that one, Dan.
Excellent. Well, thanks guys for joining in the chat. I love seeing you guys here. And go check out the rest of the content. It should be fun. Okay. Anything else you got?
No. See you Wednesday.
See you Wednesday.
Oh, T-ball appointment. Yes.
Yes,
Ryan,
T-ball appointment. Thank you.
His soccer appointments are over for the season, but his
T-ball
appointments
That's
are
right.
not starting.
That's right.
Oh,
Excellent.
Right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for watching. See you at the next stop.
Bye.
Bye-bye.